What a great joy. So let's start with what we saw in the video. Mr. Q, do you have a problem to keep up with innovation?
Not at all.
So what's your secret, Mr. Q? How do you deal with innovation at a time where you are surrounded by startups, agile innovation, and you still need to keep up with innovation? And please tell us a little bit about what's your role and what kind of innovation you're scouting for.
You want the role or the secret?
We want the secret, but I want the audience to understand.
Okay. So I can tell you, the secret in the German military, if you want to be more innovative, has to do with positive communication. I'll give you an example. If you put 10 scientists into a room, one will come up with an idea. The 9 others will say, we have done that 5 years ago, it doesn't work. Yeah? If you turn that message into, I think it could be done if 1, 2, 3 conditions would be met, you have a different dynamic in the room. I think we need to educate our soldiers in what is called in Germany violent-free communication.
But how
it's interesting for the military.
But how do we do that? I know that you have a very impressive career as an entrepreneur, actually serial entrepreneur, very successful one. Also, I met some of your students speaking about your academic career. But how do you bring all this actually experience from innovation into the military, known as the military Germany, not to innovate himself, but to buy externally?
Well, I mean, first of all, we did something very untypical for Germany. We took 25 elite soldiers from the cyber area, and we took 25 serial entrepreneurs, and we put them together in one facility and let them innovate. And we gave them a lot of freedom, and which is very untypical for anyone who knows the military. I know even in Israel there's bureaucracy. And we, the large organizations like the military like to talk about innovation management. And I think the word management and innovation doesn't fit. So what we are trying to do is innovation culture. And, we pretty much do 2 things. We interact a lot with startups globally, even in Israel. And we work like a startup. So we try to bring, the tagline we use is, we develop lean startup as a military capability.
Tamir, as an Israeli, we owe you so much for your incredible service for the country, and you were a legend in Israel for what you've done as the head of the Mossad. But you also brought to the Israeli Mossad a culture of innovation and a culture of entrepreneurship we haven't known before. What's the way that you've done innovation and bringing innovation into a secret organization that used to be very close to the entrepreneurial community before?
First of all, thank you for being here. It's a great honor. I didn't invent it. The Mossad is, I think, one of the biggest entrepreneur society in the world, especially among the secret services. To run an organization like Mossad is to run hundreds of startups at every moment. And that's, I think, a very big challenge.
But now I know that you did actually leapfrog from the model of innovation where the Mossad was like running 100 startups internally, that you opened up actually to the entrepreneurial community. I think that for the first time we see the Israeli Mossad or the Israeli Secret Services opening up innovation accelerators or innovation investment arms, actually bringing people outside of this secret circle into the innovation of the Mossad.
Yes, and the reason is that when I was a youngster, when I joined the Mossad, and the doors were open to me to see where we are, I think that among all the military services, all the secret services, we were ahead of the civil society. We used technology that was unknown to the civil society. Through the years, it changed, okay? When we see that we can find a new smartphone every 3 or 4 or 6 months, that's something that is unheard when you are talking about the time that it takes things to develop within the secret services. So in order to be relevant, you should open your gates and you should absorb innovation from the open society, from the industry, and they are leading actually, and you can assist them. You can be a very important part in the system, but they are the leader. They got the fortune to do it. They got billions of dollars for R&D that no secret service, no government got. So go to the private and make a joint venture with them.
You know, I think it's a very brave statement from the Mossad to actually look at the entrepreneurial community and the private market and says, you are the leaders. I think it's a very brave statement. But here I have a question for you. So what's the process? Because, you know, secret services like the Mossad or the German military, you have needs and you have challenges, but it's not as easy to openly articulate them because you would disclose some of the kind of like the secrets, some of the gaps that you are having. What is the way for the military or secret services to share the challenges and the need with the entrepreneurial community that would take actually then the lead and develop the companies?
Well, you're addressing a very important point, and I think it's a particular challenge because I think the military needs to change the way it thinks. In the old days, we were very secret, but that's not the way the innovation community works anymore. We're in the sharing economy, you know, we are very open, people collaborate. So we need to get our heads around that. And one of the things we need to do is to collaborate more with the startup ecosystem, which is not only startups, which is all the other units that are around that are doing similar things like Libertat and Mossad. And, you know, the US military has 8 of these innovation units, French, British, everybody starts having them. So that's an ecosystem of its own. You know, I think there's between advertising everything you need on the internet and starting to collaborate, there are, you know, many stages. But as a big picture, yes, the military needs to think more openly.
I know that you are going to produce for us the headlines for tomorrow's Calcalist, because what you told me earlier about your plan to come to Israel. Could you share with us a little bit about what's the German military...
Let me rephrase that. The German military doesn't want to go to Israel.
Let's rephrase it.
With that, I'm sure the headlines.
That would make a headline.
No.
Beware from headlines in the Israeli press.
Yes. The second headline would be Otto is looking for a new job. So we have a mandate to work globally. Yeah? Of course, Israel is a super interesting ecosystem, particularly when it comes to topics like AI, cybersecurity, drones, and you name it. What I said is that so far we haven't started to scan systematically for startup in Israel. It has happened accidentally because people like Yaron and other friends introduced individual companies. But we want to look at the Israeli market more systematically. That's really it. So, and yes, we do come to Israel every now and then. Where we meet with our counterparts in IDF and so forth, also with accelerators, with the private ecosystem. As you know, Germany and Israel are not traditional military allies, but there's intent of our governments to work more together on all levels. And I can say we have a very good working relationship.
So, if I'm a startup in Tel Aviv, can I start to imagine my design partner or POC to be with the German military?
I didn't understand that.
If I'm an Israeli startup, can I start thinking about the German military as a partner, design partner?
Well,
or as a
think of us as a good customer. So we don't take equity stakes in companies. We're not interested in building startups. Too complicated for government. We wouldn't be good at that. I think we're natural allies with the venture capital industry. We just want to give revenue to companies. Yeah? We want to be a good customer. Today, it takes
I don't know, B2G, business to government, 10 years. Yeah? So one of the companies I created was in facial recognition. It took 10 years before it went anywhere. Yeah? Too complicated. I think government should purchase in 30 days.
Cool.
And that's what we're doing. Yeah?
That's a major problem. The time from the POC to finalize an agreement and a sale, that's a bureaucratic problem that hasn't been solved. And the major problem is that it comes out that governments and the industries are buying obsolete. Because think, there is some innovative product. They started it 2 years ago. Now it's going to be on the market. Then it's going to take 3 years of negotiation with the bureaucracy to buy it. So the day it's in, it's already 5 years old. When I was a director, I said to my people, look, if you want to check something, to run what we are calling a POC, okay, a pilot. So I want the pilot not to be more than 30 days, and if it's a successful pilot, and I want you to analyze and to finalize what's going to be a successful pilot before the pilot starts, I want within 45 days to buy it.
I see.
Otherwise, I don't want to run those pilots, those POCs, because it's a waste of time and a fortune. Because governments, and I must admit, unfortunately, private companies as well, are wasting fortune on testing things, successful things, and afterwards entering to an endless bureaucracy, and at the end of the day, whether they buy it or not, they're going to buy an obsolete, or they're going to look for something new, and they're going to waste another time, more time, and they won't be profitable, and they won't achieve their goals as a private company or a government.
And by the way, we all know that Tamir is very successful in hunting terrorists and you name it, but he also is a very successful hunter of bureaucracy. He managed to bring down the Mossad contract for startups to, what is it, a 2-pager. So, I mean, you know, you can't believe what it means in government
but you
to
know,
come to a contract of 2 pages, right?
Otto, let me challenge this kind of like ideal story of partnering with the military. You know, I'm a venture capitalist. I invest in technologies. I'm very concerned, actually, that my startups would be tainted in a way as a military technology or something that has this relationship with the secret services. Because to be honest, we sell in a global market, and later there's always this question, do you have some Mossad modules integrated into your technology? Was your technology being reviewed by the Mossad corps? So we are a little bit reluctant for this kind of ideal partnership that you are portraying. What would you sell to the venture capitalists or the CEOs of the companies that are a little bit afraid of this hug by the military and the secret services?
As being an Israeli, you must understand, and everyone must understand, Israel will never, in no industry, going to put what we're calling a backdoor, okay, in order to create something or to achieve something. We are too small country to afford it. If it's going to happen once to any Israeli company, that's going to be the end of the Israeli industry, whatever.
So,
kind of industry, from pharma to cyber. Everything going to be ruined. It's against the law. No one will ever try it. We are a small country. I think that even bigger countries will not do it.
you know, we have a big story now in the news about the Iranian missiles program and the fact that apparently a lot of the launches were not successful. At least the New York Times reported recently that one of the reasons that they were buying parts from external companies that might have been defected. I don't know if it's a true story, but at least the concern with the industry or the concern with the startups that will need to meet some design requirements.
Do you believe that a company that is selling, whether to Iranian or to I don't know whom, something, gonna sell something that is not functioning properly?
You know, Tamir, but let's put it this way. Now in Israel, you're also a cyber expert, and the chairman of a very successful cyber company. We know that for Israel now we have export restrictions or export control over cyber products. And at least the cyber industry is very concerned because it's coming that governmental officials and governmental engineers are actually looking into their code, reviewing their technology, not only giving their opinion, but also giving the export license. What would you sell to a company that is now puzzled? Should I go for the private market or should I go for export kind of like control technologies?
If I may, first of all, weapon export control is something very important. We don't want any weapons to come into the wrong hands, whether it's tanks, aircraft, or cyber tools, okay? Secondly, I think you address two important things. So the first question is, what is our interest as government, as the military? I don't want to work with a startup, particularly in the early stage, and be the only customer. That would not be a wise decision, purely economically. We want stable companies. Why do we like to work with startups that are venture capital funded? Because you guys put in money, you guys make sure there's good governance, there's a good leadership team. All this helps us to get a better product, okay? So why would we, if we restricted that, the companies would become dependent on us, and before you know it, they become bureaucratic. So that's not in our interest. Now, the second point you're addressing is also very important. What do I know what's in the product? Yeah? And that's an increasing problem. We have, all the major hardware components come from Asia. Yeah? So we will have to, and you guys will have to come up with solutions not only for software checking, and we can automate some of that. Yeah, we can review code automatically. We can use AI to detect malware and backdoors in code, etc. That's up for you guys, but also for hardware. There's not enough done about checking hardware right now. So be inventive. Create products.
I know that we are short in time, but at least thank you for fulfilling a dream of one guy in Israel to sit with the real Mr. Q's on stage. Thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you very much.